Herbie Hancock has played alongside Miles Davis. He's won 14 Grammy Awards. He's one of the most decorated jazz musicians who has ever lived. And in 2011, at a concert in Bali, Indonesia, he stopped what he was doing and watched an 8-year-old play piano. Not politely, not out of courtesy. He watched the way you watch something you can't quite believe is real. That 8-year-old was Joey Alexander, and nobody outside of a small island in Indonesia had ever heard of him. That was about to change. Joey Alexander was born Josiah Alexander Sila on June 25, 2003, in Denpasar, Bali. His father, Denny Sila, had studied in the United States and come home carrying an obsession with jazz, a genre that had almost no presence in Bali at the time. When Joey was 6, his father handed him a small keyboard and a stack of jazz CDs. Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, John Coltrane. Most 6-year-olds would have pressed the demo button and lost interest in 10 minutes. Joey listened to those recordings until he had memorized them. Not the melody, the feeling, the way jazz breathes between the notes. He was self-taught from the beginning. No formal lessons, no teacher. Just a small keyboard, old CDs, and ears that heard things most adults never learned to hear. By age 8, word had spread through Bali's small jazz community. People were talking about Denny's son, about this boy who could improvise like a grown musician. That's when Herbie Hancock heard about him. He asked Joey to play at his concert, and when Joey sat down at that piano, 8 years old, feet not quite reaching the pedals, the room went still. Hancock later said it was one of the most remarkable things he'd ever witnessed. Coming from a man who spent decades at the center of jazz history, that's not a compliment you take lightly. Joey was 9 when he traveled to Ukraine alone and entered an international jazz competition. He won. At 11, his family made the move to New York City, the center of the jazz world, so Joey could pursue his talent at the highest level. It was a significant sacrifice. His parents uprooted their entire lives in a country where they barely spoke the language for their son's gift. New York listened. At 12, he performed at Jazz at Lincoln Center. At 13, he released his debut album, My Favorite Things, and was nominated for 2 Grammy Awards, the youngest jazz instrumentalist ever nominated in the album categories. He was nominated again the following year. At 14, he performed at the White House. Joey's story is different from most prodigies in this channel. It doesn't end in collapse or tragedy, but the cost is still real. He grew up in airports and concert halls. His classroom was the road. The friendships, the slow teenage years, the ordinary rhythms of growing up, those were traded for something else. He has spoken about the pressure of being treated as a finished product before he was finished growing. Of audiences expecting the prodigy, not the person still figuring things out. Jazz, at its core, is about improvisation, about responding to the moment. Joey Alexander has had to learn, in public, at every stage of his life, how to do that as both a musician and a human being. Joey Alexander is in his early 20s now. He's no longer the boy wonder. He's just a serious jazz musician, which is exactly what he always wanted to be. He still records, still tours, still plays with the biggest names in jazz. But the story has moved beyond the miracle of his age to the depth of his craft. That's what separates the prodigies who last from the ones who fade. Eventually, the gift has to grow up with you. Joey Alexander grew up. A 6-year-old in Bali with a keyboard and some old CDs. A jazz legend who stopped mid-show to watch, and a career that was never supposed to be possible. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. Every week, we find the prodigy's history almost missed. And drop a comment. Had you heard of Joey Alexander before today?